Hey there, TigerShark here again with Okano. For this episode of Sorting Treasure from Trash, I'm trying something a little different. I'm doing a game giveaway. For this week I played a game called Fly Night. It's about $6 on Steam. At an undetermined point during my review, I'll give you a keyword. First person to comment the keyword wins, and I'll buy you a copy of Fly Night on Steam. Of course, you'll need a Steam account if you don't already have one. If this goes well, I'll do more giveaways like this in the future. So, on to the review. First off, this game is littered with bugs, like flies and bees and stuff. Not sorry, the game was just begging for that joke. In actuality, there weren't a lot of bugs or glitches or anything like that. I found this game under the Souls-like tag. I actually remember seeing Iron Pineapple play this game a while back. I just rewatched his review. At the time, it was a 2-week game jam, and it definitely looked different when he played it. So the dev must have made some changes and improvements, making the game longer and more in-depth. Now there are more levels and even NPCs. There are a couple specific highlights of the combat. You can hit the enemies in specific body parts. You can cut off each arm individually, which means you can stop them from attacking by disarming them. Or enemies with shields, you can target the shield to destroy it or poke at its feet. The damage type of the weapons makes a difference, which I think is pretty cool. It encourages you to actually hold on to different weapons and change up how you fight. For example, swords are good for chopping off limbs, but don't do as much damage to the body or shields. But a hammer or mace can break shields quickly and crush heads. This is a really cool feature, because normally in games I'll just find the weapon with the highest damage number and stick with it until I find a better one. But this game actually rewards you for switching it up. I only have 2 complaints about the combat. One is the lack of a dodge button. That's not a deal breaker, loads of games don't have a dodge, but this goes all the way back to when I was a kid playing Resident Evil Outbreak on the PlayStation 2. I was baffled at how there wasn't a dodge button. That has stuck with me for my entire life. Too many games make you just have to take the damage if you don't keep your distance or kill the enemies quickly. Now this game has a block and a parry that work really well, but I still miss the ability to dodge. If you explore further into the game, you will find a ring that gives you a sidestep/backstep, but it seems like it should have been included as a feature from the start. The other complaint, maybe complaint is a bit too strong of a word for this one, but my other comment is that everything feels pretty slow. The weapon swings, the movement, just kind of everything. With how important stamina is in the game, it feels bad to sprint everywhere because the stamina regen is pretty slow. And the fact that if you miss a sword swing, then you have to wait for the full follow-through before you can swing again. If you hit, you can chain attacks, but even that feels kind of like it's moving in slow motion. I'm interrupting myself right here to say that the keyword for the game giveaway is walrus. The first person to comment the word walrus wins. So on the topic of slowness, I tried to play with a controller at first, but for whatever reason the sensitivity was absolutely awful. Maybe just personal preference, but I need high sensitivity when I play with a controller. So I ended up switching to keyboard and mouse. The other thought about combat, you can get various spells, but they don't seem very powerful, and mana only recharges at bonfires. I found a ring that makes mana recharge automatically, but at the cost of some spell damage. When the spells already do pitiful damage, this just doesn't really feel worth it. I did find another ring that amps spell damage at the cost of more mana. I guess these two can synergize. Maybe they didn't want ranged magic builds to be too OP, but instead they just kind of made them not really viable. That's a problem most games have, not just Fly Night. I've recently been playing through Gothic 3, and I feel like they did it really well. In that case, mana is a scarce resource, needing potions to recover it, but spells are pretty strong. At a certain point in the story you can unlock the ability to regen mana, then it kinda becomes OP, which is so fun. But tougher enemies or hordes of enemies are still a threat. I didn't want this video to turn into another rant video where I get all worked up about something unrelated, though this one is related. I just think a lot of games are too limiting. The point of games is to have fun, and I personally have fun playing magic characters. But if the game limits the magic build so it's only half as good as any other build, then it's killing some of the fun. I'm not asking for it to be OP, I just think throwing a fireball into someone's face probably would be more effective in real life than it is in video games. I realize I could talk about this for a really long time if I let myself, so I'll stop there. Hi there, TigerShark here, interrupting TigerShark again. While I was editing, I realized I forgot to mention the fishing, which is just fine. But specifically near the end of the game, you can get a unique fish. It's a swordfish, and you can use it as a piercing sword like a rapier. I didn't use shields much since I was using two-handed weapons most of the time, but when I got the swordfish, I tried it out with the biggest shield I had. Both of these things blocked my screen quite a bit, but the shield turned out to be beyond OP, and the swordfish was just funny to use. Sorry for interrupting, back to what I was saying before. Just a couple more thoughts about Fly Night before I go. I love the aesthetic, the bug enemies and NPCs are great. In the settings, there's a crunch slider that you can use to make the game more pixelated and old-fashioned looking, and some filters that do some weird colorization. There's also an option in the settings labeled Arachnophobia. I don't know what it does, but I assume it removes the spider enemies or reskins them or something. The music could be less repetitive. It's good and it works, but it seems that each level has one track that repeats forever. Bosses are just okay. I beat everyone on the first try, even the last boss, which turned out to be more of a puzzle boss than anything. It was the same one that Iron Pineapple fought in his video. Kinda disappointing, but I still enjoyed the fight. There is one particular enemy, the Bee Samurai, that has given me way more trouble than the bosses. And one last thing, there is online co-op. I haven't tried it, but it's probably fun. The fact that I actually played this game to the end tells me all that I need to know, really. So many games I liked, but I just never got around to finishing. This one I actually stuck with and finished all in the same week. I think it took me between 3 and 4 hours total. There's another game by this dev called Sorceress that looks really good, and I'll definitely check it out when it's released. But until then, that's all for this one. Congrats to whoever won the giveaway. I'll add you on Steam and buy you the game. And as always, I hope you have a spectacular day. I have other channels and projects that I would love for you to check out. I have a second channel called Drawing with TigerShark, where I illustrate movies I haven't seen based on the Wikipedia description. I have an EP on Spotify called 5,555 Miles as my one-man band called Power Mouse. And finally, I have a clothing brand called Studio Duck Apparel featuring original artwork that I create myself. The links to these things will all be in the description.